Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. All right, there is one last topic I want to talk about, and let me just say this. If you guys listen to this show, you know I don't normally talk about bad Big Ten West teams on the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. If you're an Illinois football fan, got to find somewhere other than the Aaron Torres Pod to talk Illinois football. You a Northwestern fan? Not this year, baby. We ain't talking Northwestern on this show. But there was one result that came out of Saturday that I do want to discuss. It came in Lincoln, Nebraska. Nebraska got out to a 17-14 lead at halftime. Nebraska blew a second-half lead. Nebraska lost to Purdue at home. Final score 28-23. And I want to talk about it because with the loss, Nebraska falls to 3-6. They still have 3 very challenging games left on their schedule. And this was the game that felt like the end of the Scott Frost era. Now, as best I can tell as I record here late afternoon, late evening on Sunday, Scott Frost is still the head coach. And maybe he's allowed to coach out the rest of the season. Maybe he's allowed to coach whatever. But this felt like the game where it's over for Scott Frost in Nebraska. If in year 4 you cannot beat Purdue at home, if in year 4 you are making the same mistakes with the same players that you were making in year 1, if in year 4 you could potentially fall to 3-9, 3-6 right now with Ohio State, Iowa, and Wisconsin still on the schedule, it probably isn't getting turned around, and the fan base probably is not going to give you another year to make it happen. And so while it might not be official, Saturday felt like the end of the Scott Frost era. And let me just say, I'm really bummed out. And I'm really bummed out for a couple reasons. First of all, I'm bummed out. I've talked about it on this podcast before. I'm not a quote-unquote Nebraska fan. I've driven through Nebraska. I've driven through Lincoln. Great town, great people. Love their Golden Corral. That was the one thing I remember about Lincoln. They kept telling me, you got to go to the Golden Corral. I was like, I want to go somewhere else. No, I'll go to the Golden Corral. But it's a great town, great people, great state. And when I was coming up as a college football fan, as a young child, Nebraska was what Alabama is now. First 3 years that I remember watching college football, first 4 years, Nebraska won 3 national titles. First college football memory that I have, I'm not kidding, Tommy Frazier against Florida in the Orange Bowl. And so I've always had a soft spot for Nebraska because I have seen them at their absolute peak. I have seen how great this program can be. I have seen the support that they have. And so if you're a 19, 20-year-old kid listening to this show saying, Torres, why do you care about Nebraska so much? Imagine 25 years from now, Alabama cannot get out of its own way. And then, oh, by the way, Alabama goes out and hires Greg McElroy or Bryce Young or somebody of that caliber as the best young coach in college football, and even he can't figure it out at Nebraska. And that's essentially what you have with Scott Frost. And so that is what is so tough about this with Nebraska. We know the limitations of the Nebraska job in 2021, but it wasn't supposed to matter because Scott Frost was supposed to be the guy that rescued this program. Great star on the last great team, rising star in coaching. We all know the resume. Take Central Florida from winless in 1 year. 2 years later, they're undefeated. They beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl. And we can criticize the hire now. We can tear it apart now. It was about as consensus of a can't-miss hire as I have ever seen since I started covering college football, okay? Since I have covered college football in any form or fashion, there are only 2 hires that I believe were unanimous cannot miss hires, and ironically, both of them have kind of missed. The first was Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Second was Scott Frost at Nebraska. Maybe Nick Saban. I know Nick Saban was the same way back in 2007. I was not covering college football in any way back then, but this was about as safe of a bet as you could get. Elite player at the program. He understood what the program was about, and I think it's worth noting that he turned down other great jobs to come to Nebraska. That was part of it too. He could have gone to Florida. He had the opportunity to get the job that now is Dan Mullen's. Instead, he wanted to come home to Nebraska. He wanted to fix this thing. He wanted to make it right. He wanted to be the guy to do it. And the fact that it's year 4 and he can't get over the hump, it's just so tough. because he knows what this school means to the state. He knows what it means to the community. He knows the history. He knows about the famous walk-on program. He knows about the development and all the things that go on in Nebraska. And I will say, it feels like if he can't get it done at Nebraska, I don't know who will. In terms of specifics, what I would say is this circumstance with Scott Frost, and again, I'm talking about him as if he's been fired. He hasn't been yet, but he will be. It's frustrating for two very specific reasons. The first one is I believe that not only did I want it to work, I feel like he had the support of everybody, right? And that's part of this in college football. You have these fan bases. Some of them are angry. Some of them are mean. Some of them don't support a coach. You go back, the most famous one in recent memory, Charlie Strong at Texas. Half the fan base didn't want the guy. The second the guy was hired, and that put him so far behind the eight ball. Everybody supported Scott Frost at Nebraska. Again, son of Nebraska, grew up in Nebraska, won a national championship there. And the Nebraska fan base, I feel like, has done everything they can to back this guy and support this guy and show him that they love him and they want him to succeed. This is not a guy getting hired day one and he's already behind the eight ball with the fan base. The fan base wanted him to succeed more than anybody. And I'll take it a step further. I think the administration wanted him to succeed more than anybody. I'll say this about the administration. I saw an interview with their AD, Trev Alberts, another former player. One of the Barstool guys interviewed the two of them about 3 weeks ago before the Michigan game. It seemed like they had a great relationship. It seemed like Trev Alberts, as much as anybody, wanted Scott Frost to succeed, and it just hasn't happened. What I would also say is the other frustrating thing about this is two things. One, Nebraska fans wanted it to succeed, and the other thing is, you can't say that Scott Frost hasn't had the time. Like that to me is the most disappointing thing. Maybe frustrating is not the right word. Maybe disappointing. Is there are all sorts of coaching hirings and firings that seem unjustified. I mean, even Coach O, the program's going in the wrong direction, zero doubt. But you can argue 2 years after a national championship, you shouldn't be firing the guy. You know, Matt Wells at Texas Tech. I don't think he's the guy there, but he was 5-3, and you fire him going into the Oklahoma game. Those are firings that, while I understood each, you can also say that they were a little bit rushed, that the guy didn't have enough time. You can make the argument that the guy deserved more time. It's going to be really hard when this ends for Scott Frost, if it ends, and I think it will, unless they run the table here somehow, if they beat Ohio State somehow, whatever. If it ends the way that I think it's going to be frustrating because you can't argue that Scott Frost didn't have enough time. And beyond that, you can't argue that this all wasn't self-inflicted. Some guys take a bad loss, 2 bad losses. Some guys have 1 million injuries. Scott Frost's problem are self-inflicted. Scott Frost's problem is that Adrian Martinez was his first great recruit, and he is stuck with him through thick and thin. I talked about it back in week 0 after the Illinois game. I said, Scott Frost is not going to get fired because of NCAA issues. He's not going to be fired because of this. He's not going to be fired because of that. He is going to be fired because in the transfer portal era, where you can go out and you can get immediate help anywhere you need help. Look at Michigan State. Their entire team is transfers. They did not go get a transfer quarterback to at least compete with Adrian Martinez. And I don't know if there's some big top secret quiet story that we don't know about yet. I don't know why Scott Frost is so loyal to this kid. And look, in some ways it's great, right? It's great that you're loyal. It's great that you want him to succeed. It's great. But at a certain point, you are who you are. And Adrian Martinez is a guy that throughout his history as a football player, he has a very specific history that at the worst possible times, he is going to make the worst possible decisions, and it is going to cost you. This year is no different. He threw 4 interceptions on Saturday. 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions on the season, and that is a metaphor, right? If there is one game that is going to cost you your job, it might as well be the game where Adrian Martinez has essentially done what he has done throughout his career, which is throw a crap ton of interceptions. Last year, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Year before in 2019, 10 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. And I'm not saying you got to have Bryce Young at quarterback. I'm not saying you got to have DJ or Spencer Rattler or one of those guys. What I am saying is quarterback should be no different than any other position, and there should be competition there. And it was clear after year 2 that he was not going to be the guy that you wanted him to be, and you at least had to bring in other people to compete for the job and to challenge him for the job. The fact that you didn't bring in anybody when the obituary is written on Scott Frost's time at Nebraska, that's what it's going to come down to. He had a chance to replace Adrian Martinez. He had a chance to go in the transfer portal. He had a chance to recruit a high school player, and he either never did or he never actually put that guy in the game. I was kind of reading some commentary. You can complain about a lot of things, but the fact that Scott Frost kept rolling this guy out there, Adrian Martinez, on Saturday, 4 interceptions when you have a backup quarterback is inexcusable. And so I feel bad for Scott Frost, but at the end of the day, when he is ultimately let go, he is going to have nobody to blame but himself, and it's because he was too stubborn to get rid of Adrian Martinez. Now, in the bigger picture, what I would say is this is kind of a very scary time for Nebraska, and it's for the same reason I talked about with Michigan a few minutes ago. Listen, you can say a lot about Michigan, but what I'll tell you about Michigan, at least Harbaugh's winning 10 games. He might not beat Ohio State or Michigan State, but at least he's beaten Rutgers, Maryland, Northwestern, those kind of – Nebraska isn't even beating those guys. And so it's going to be so interesting to me. Where do you go next? You've tried everything. You tried the guy from the NFL and Bill Callahan. You tried the native son in Scott Frost. You tried the successful head coach somewhere else in Mike Riley. Nothing has worked. And so if this job opens, this isn't USC where there's an obvious 4, 5, 6 candidates. There isn't 4, 5, 6 obvious candidates like at LSU. I don't know who wants this job and who takes this job. I mean, the only name that even has come up in recent weeks is Mark Stoops. And I'm telling you, Mark Stoops ain't leaving Kentucky to go to to go to Nebraska, which right now is a train wreck of a program. And so it's a very precarious situation. I feel bad for Nebraska fans. I'm rooting for you. I hope you get the right coach. And I'm not one of those guys, by the way, that believes that Nebraska can never be great in modern college football. I think they certainly have obstacles. But it was just 2 weeks ago Iowa was in the top 5 nationally. Wisconsin has been on the brink of the playoff. If you get the right coach, by the way, Notre Dame, I say it all the time. There's no reason that Notre Dame, a small Irish Catholic school in Indiana, should be good, but they got the right head coach. And so I believe that Nebraska can be relevant in the same way that I believe that there's probably 25, 30 teams that can be relevant in modern college football. But I don't know who that coach is. I don't know what the answer is. And look, I'm not going to lie. I still kind of hope that Nebraska's able to rip off, go 2-3 down the stretch, maybe beat Wisconsin, beat Iowa, and convince the administration that Scott Frost is the guy. I would love to see him with someone other than Adrian Martinez because I think he can win, but it's his own fault that he hasn't pulled Adrian Martinez. So listen, I don't want to belabor the point. I don't want to talk about it too much. But let me just say that, like I said, Saturday felt like the end for Scott Frost. It felt like that was the one that there is no coming back from. You can lose to Michigan. You can lose to Oklahoma. You can even lose to Michigan State with the season that you're having. But when you lose to Minnesota 2 weeks ago, then go into a bye, come out of a bye, and lose to Purdue at home, I just don't think that's something that you